Hello, I'm Sherrill and welcome to my sewing room. I'm going to demonstrate how to make an acorn quilt block. So let's take a look at the acorn. Look at this. This is just a bunch of 2.5-inch squares stitched together. Now up here at the top of the acorn, I've used one color, but you can start using up your scraps. Use a bunch of different patterns of dark brown for the top and the stem, and then for the body of the acorn, you can use multiple shades of beige or dark beige, different prints and patterns in there. And then select a light background so that the acorn pattern can stand out. Now this is just one of 3 blocks that I'm publishing to put in this really pretty holiday table runner. Okay, now this is just a rough draft of the table runner. So in this video is the acorn block. The previous video was the maple leaf, and the link is appearing right about now in the upper right hand corner so that you can view this block. And then the third one right after this is this adorable little pumpkin. And the video after that, I will show you how to put this all together in this really pretty holiday table runner. Okay, let me put this aside and let's go over the cutting instructions. Okay, now this is a great project for scraps. So dig out your old scraps and start coordinating all your colors. Now, fabric A is for the body of the acorn. You're going to need 10 2.5-inch squares and 1 3.5-inch square. Then for the top of the acorn, which is your dark brown, 2 2.5-inch squares, 1 3.5-inch square, and 1 1.5-inch square. Now for the background fabric, and select a light color, you're going to need 2 rectangles that are 2 inches by 2.5, and then 1 square 1.5 inch, 17 2.5 inch, and 1 3.5 inch. Now, if you've never cut quilt fabric before, watch the video Tips for Cutting Quilt Fabric for instructions on that. I give you a really efficient, quick way to cut out all of your squares. And this is the block layout, and the letters represent the fabric. For instance, the C here is your background fabric. B is this dark chocolate brown, and then for the body of the acorn is the A fabric. Okay? All right, so let's start by working on your half square triangles. You're going to make 4 of them. Take the 2 3.5-inch squares of your background fabric. So you're going to have 2 of them. And you're going to draw lines from corner to corner. So line up your ruler, and either with a pencil or fabric marker, draw a line down the center. So you're going to do that on both. Now you're going to draw 2 more lines, one on each side. Place the 1/4 inch line on your ruler on the center line. Line that up and then draw a line. Then do the same thing on the other side. Draw 1 more line, place the 1/4 inch line on the center line, and draw your 3rd line. And do the same thing on the other one. Now you're going to pair up those 2 background squares with one of the dark beige for the body of the acorn, and then one for the top of the acorn, your dark chocolate brown. All right, so line those all up, and then you're going to stitch on the 2 outer lines on both of them. Then you're going to line up your ruler on the center line, and you're going to cut the squares in half and do the same thing on the other one. Line it up and cut it in half. Now you're going to have 4 half square triangles. Now you need to square them up. Excuse me, you need to press them first. Have the dark side up on all of them. Okay, so you're going to have the dark side up. Then you're going to press the seam on the back side with your iron. Now do not finger press. Use a hot iron. Then open it up and press and push the seams on top towards the dark side of the block. So press open it up, press on top, pushing the seams towards the dark side of the block. So now you're going to square all of them up. You want to get them squared to size 2.5 inches. So take your diagonal line on your ruler and place them on the diagonal, on the seam on your square there, on your half square triangle. Now here's my 2.5 inch line here and here. So you want to center the ruler in that area, and you're now going to cut just 2 sides. Okay, and then cut the other side. Let me get this a little bit better. There we go. Now you want to turn the square and now line up that diagonal line again, placing the 2.5 inch line on the 2 previously cut edges. Okay, so line it up. Make sure your diagonal line is still on the seam. Once you've got it all lined up, then cut your last 2 sides. Okay, so now you want to square them all up to 2.5 inches, so all 4 of them. Okay, so now let me show you how to make the stem. Take your 2 1.5 inch squares of the dark chocolate brown, and then 1 of your background fabric. Okay, stitch 1/4 inch on one edge, then press with your iron on the top. Remember, don't finger press. Then unfold it, press on top, pushing this seam towards the dark side. Okay, then take your 2 rectangles that are 2 inches by 2.5, and you're going to stitch them on each side. So lay one on top, line up the edge along here and stitch 1/4 inch, and then place the other one on top, line up your edges and stitch 1/4 inch. And when you're done, it's going to look like this. Okay, now you want to make sure that it is 2.5 inches by 4.5 inches. So always verify that things are coming out to the correct size. So place your ruler on top, put the 2.5 inch line here, center this ruler in that 4.5 inch area, and if you have anything sticking out, which it's very common to have a little of something sticking out, go ahead and trim anything off that might be there. Then turn the block, line up your 2.5 inch line on the previously cut edge and the 4.5 inch line if you need to, and trim the last 2 sides if they need it. Okay, now let's go over here, and you want to line up all of your blocks. Okay, so starting with the first row, just place it all out like this, and your stem is in the middle. Then begin placing the acorn top, which is the dark brown, 2 solid squares here and a half square triangle on each end, placing them in this direction. Then go on down the next row, and on the bottom of the acorn, be aware of the direction of the half square triangle, and you're circling the entire area with background fabric. Okay, now once you get this all laid out, you're going to take 1 row at a time and stitch all the squares together. And usually what I do is I start at the end of the row and I just stack them on top like this. Then I take it, go to my sewing machine, and take the first 2 squares, bring right sides together, and stitch 1/4 inch along one side. Then I just keep going on. I attach the next square, pin and stitch 1/4 inch. Then once you've done with that row, just lay it out, don't press it yet. Then take the next row, stack it up, go to your sewing machine. Continue that process all the way down. Okay? All right, so let me clear some of this. Now once you've got your rows all stitched, it's going to start looking like this. Okay? So now, before you stitch the rows together, you must press all of your seams. So I'm going to turn some of these over, okay, so that you can see what I've done with these seams. This is really important for the success of your quilt block. I have my seams in this row pressed towards this direction. In the next row, they're pressed this way, and then this way, and it just keeps going on like that all the way across. You want to make sure you press your seams in the opposite direction of the previous row. But before you do that, you want to press your seams on the back side. So you want to keep it folded and press. So usually how I do it when I'm at my ironing board is I've got it like this. The first block is folded under. I press, I lift with one hand, press with the other hand, and keep doing that. It goes really fast. It's called production line pressing. Okay, now you want to take this block and lift it up. Now you're going to press it on the front side, on the top. You're going to press the seams on top, pushing with your iron the seam that way, okay, so that the seams are going out and away from you. Then you just go to the next one, push against it and press, keep going on down the row that you have there. Okay, so now you want to continue that process all the way down, okay? Now, once you've got all your rows together, or pressed, then you want to start stitching them together. Okay, so I'm going to start up here. I'm going to take my first row and I'm going to take the second row and lay it on top. Okay? What you want to do is line up your seams. So let's focus on this seam over here. You want to make sure that the seam on the bottom is going in the opposite direction of the one on top. Now, these seams are not on top of each other. They're right next to each other. So you want to lock them in together really tight. Okay, it should feel nice and flat in there if you've got it lined up correctly. Then place a pin to hold the seam together. Okay, then go to the next seam, line it up in there nice and close, pin it. Continue on down the row, pinning all the seams together. Then stitch 1/4 inch all along there from this raw edge in 1/4 inch seam. Then just unfold it, okay, and open it up. Take your next row, lay it on top. Again, line up those seams, making sure that they're going in opposite directions. Pin the seams. At each seam, place a pin. Stitch 1/4 inch all the way across. And continue all the way down until you've got all the blocks together. Now, it's going to look like this. All right? This is what you're hoping for, that it's looking like this. Now, I'm going to turn this over. Now we have to press the seams that we've just stitched. So again, fold one row under and press on the back side and just keep lifting and then press the next one. It's called production line pressing, and keep going till you've got all of the seams pressed on the back side. Then go to the front side of the block. Keep your block slightly lifted a little bit, and with your iron, push against the seam, pressing that seam in one direction. See, it's going that way, away from me. Then go to the next row and do the same thing. Keep continuing on down till you've got all the seams pressed on the front, and you'll notice each seam is going in the same direction. Okay, I'm going to turn it back over. Now, one more important step is squaring your block. Now, I highly recommend you use a 12.5 inch square ruler for this block. Okay, so These are so handy, and it helps get that accuracy that's really important in quilting. So take the ruler and center it in your quilt, okay? And this is where you're going to try to fix any funny edges that are there. So once you've got it lined up, you want to go ahead and trim any side that where it's got pieces of fabric sticking out. So cut 2 sides first, okay? Then take the block and turn it so you have the opposite corner back up there, okay? Now take your ruler's edge here and line it up on your 2 previously cut sides. Line it up there on that edge. And if anything is sticking out, then again you want to cut the last 2 sides. And there you have your Acorn quilt block. Okay, so let's take a look at that pumpkin block, which is coming up next, okay? And here it is, okay? The pumpkin block. This is going to be really fun. It's got this cute little curvy stem right here. Okay, now to keep informed on all my future videos, click on one of my subscribe buttons. There's one down there in the lower right hand corner. It's red. It says subscribe. It's there throughout the entire video, so you can click on that one at any time. Then near the end of the video is a round picture of my face floating around in the upper left hand corner. You can click on that one also. Once you click on it, make sure you enter your email address. Then YouTube will send you a brief email with a big button in the center the next time I have a new video. Once you click on that, you can really keep informed very quickly on all the videos that keep coming up, because I put out a video at least once a week most of the time. Now, I'm Sherrill. I'm really glad you came to my sewing room, and I'll see you next time, and happy sewing.